So my day job is I work for Penn State University. It's in State College, Pennsylvania in the United States. I teach courses in embedded systems and microcontrollers and FPGAs, and I also do research in the university in the areas of electronics and software. I have a kind of a nighttime side thing. It's more of a hobby where I do electronics and software, but for local companies, just kind of as a consultant. Oh, it's a great event. So this is my second time at FIT. I was invited the first time 3 years ago. I couldn't make it the first year, but I made it last year. But I saw it as a real opportunity to kind of go someplace new, meet kind of a new culture, and meet students kind of in a different country. Because I've only had experience with students in the U.S. and it's very nice. So Eduardo and Oscar do a nice job of kind of getting everything organized and whatnot. So probably the best advice, because this was kind of given to me as well, is that first, if you don't enjoy what you're doing now, don't do it as a job. You want to love what you do, even if it doesn't pay as well as other jobs. Find what you love. The other thing is, turn it into a hobby, and you can find out if you love it is if you do projects outside of class. Like you're always putting things together, you're soldering, you're writing code, and never stop coming up with little projects to work on. And I always started out very small. I did little projects, get them to work, and just over the years, just kind of played with little projects and had a lot of things that didn't work, and I kind of learned from that, and just always be tinkering around, even if your job isn't paying for it, even if it's something to do as a hobby, because that's where you learn a lot. So probably, I would say all of them, but probably one of the most neatest projects I've done, and I'm still working on it, is the active pick guard. It was digital electronics I put on a guitar, and that would process the signals right in the guitar, send them over cable. I did that 2 years ago for a freescale competition, to enter into a competition, and I've been wanting to find time to make version 2, and that kind of involved kind of all the skills I learned of doing hardware, writing software, learning about math and signal processing. So that one, it's kind of the project I always wanted to do. So most of my experience is in the United States. So I've been to some events that are run by one company, for example, one semiconductor company, where FIT is very similar to like the Embedded Systems Conference, which is very good, that it provides a very wide range of topics. So I think FIT compares very well in terms of kind of the availability of courses, the balance of conferences to hands-on workshops that I wish I saw actually more. There's very little in the United States in terms of universities doing conferences like this. I've never seen that. It's always been conferences for professionals who have a lot of experience, and they cost a lot. So it's kind of neat seeing FIT being at the university and being run by the university. So it's kind of one of a kind, I think, in that respect, where it's for the students and also people in Latin America. And it gets both professionals and students, where a lot of other conferences more with professionals in the United States and less of the students. So I think it compares very well, and it's somewhat unique. It's unique in what it does. I would say I'll say yes with I'll say yes with an exception, is that when I was young, I loved the Nintendo Entertainment. All kids did. At my age, that was the best video game system, and I just was a gaming geek. I didn't really understand how it worked. I was young, but in 7th grade, in the school I went to, we learned about the Apple II computers. It was a computer literacy, and you learned about word processing, database, but half of the course was programming. And so we got to learn programming, putting lines on the screen, and I got really interested because I could make my own video game. But what really got me interested was that I spent lots of time, I couldn't afford a computer, my family couldn't afford a computer, so I spent a lot of time after school, but I read in the manual, I learned assembly language. In the manual it described, it had a 6502 microprocessor, which I didn't know what that meant. But then I saw in the Nintendo Power magazine, the specification for the Nintendo was the same processor, and I made the connection that if it can do the computer or the Nintendo, it could do anything. And so I was hooked. Like, I thought I can make anything I want to from this microprocessor. So that got me involved in, you know, programming. Unfortunately, in high school they didn't do programming. There was no courses, so I got very involved in music. I played piano and guitar, and then I discovered, and I got lucky, I went to a technical college. I was going to go for programming, but I discovered their electronics program had both programming and robotics. And I thought, well, this is what I want. I want to take programming but build things. And ever since that, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like, I could build anything I wanted to, and I could build circuits for my guitar or do audio circuits. So that got me involved both, you know, as a hobby and both professionally. So the last piece of it, after I got my bachelor's degree, I worked for a local company doing power electronics for a few years, and I got interested in Penn State University offered actually the world's own only graduate degree in acoustics, the science of sound. And I thought that would be a great thing to combine with electronics. And so that was my path, and I knew that's where I wanted. And so I went back to school, was poor again, I quit my job so I could go back to school. And so it's been that ever since. So I kind of combine like programming, electronics, and, you know, audio all together. So I was lucky. I knew what I wanted because I made the connection earlier that I could write code and make this something happen. It was a video game because I was a video game addict, you know. So that was the tie-in. So a lot of people aren't as fortunate. They don't make the connection, and I just figured it out. And I found out it paid well too. I get a good job as well, you know, doing what I love. So that's why it's important to kind of do a lot of tinkering, because the first job you might get might not be something you're interested in, but you may do hobby projects on the side. You might take that microprocessor at work and do another project with it at home, and you might find another career path or something similar you like. So I like to always be working on a project, at least one, you know, to kind of keep the brain, keep yourself trained. So because electronics is always, and there's always new technology. So that's where all my money goes too. I spend all my money on, you know, new development tools and, you know, toys. So it started out as, the reason I did, and it's, you know, the teacher, they knew BASIC. So the Apple IIe's had a BASIC interpreter built in. So you write in BASIC, which is very simple. You print, you draw lines. But the games, you couldn't make them very smooth with BASIC. It was too slow. But I saw in the manual that there was a call to execute, and they said an assembly language routine to draw faster. And I'm like, well, what is that? How does it draw faster? And in the back of the manual, it had the program listing. And then here's the other interesting story I'll tell you, is that I saw here, I didn't get it. Like, so I was with my mother, and we went to a flea market. I don't know if you have in Guatemala.
Yeah.
It's like a used market where people sell like used stuff. And sometimes it's junk, sometimes, but there was a book area with old books or just used books. And I saw a book said Programming the 6502, and I begged my mother. She didn't know what it was. She said, oh, that's for college students. She bought it for me, and that's where I learned assembly language. And I still have the book on my bookshelf. And I tell people that's the book that, you know, and once I got it, because they had lots of examples, and then I could look in the manual for like the graphics code and, you know, understand how it works. So kind of discovered it, and my whole goal was I wanted to make my own video games. Like, I want to make Nintendo games, so and be a video game programmer, and that was the way you did it. You had to learn about the machine because computers weren't fast. You had to do assembly language to make it fast. So, and that's what started it all. So, and I still have the book, and I'm going to keep that book, the real book. You know, I don't know if you can find it anymore, but you know, it's you know, so that was kind of my path.